Hello and welcome to another Leadership Nugget. Today we're talking about another one of my favorite leaders, President Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin, was self-taught, became a lawyer, and ultimately became one of the most influential presidents in our history. His term, 1861 to 1865, was through the Civil War, as we all learned in our history books. He issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which set the stage for the end of slavery. But the secret to his leadership style was his humility and his modesty. And he was a powerful communicator. So I'd like to explore some of that. You know, Lincoln served with a strong moral purpose. He believed strongly in liberty, equality, and during the war, of course, national unity. Um, and I think the thing that strikes me the most is that, he demonstrated how strong leaders make decisions based on their principles and not on popularity or not on what the voters wanted. That was never important to Abraham Lincoln. If you watched any of these nuggets before, you may be getting tired of this theme. This goes back to Jim Collins' Good to Great, Level 5 leadership, and the importance of humility. But, President Lincoln's inner strength really came from his modesty, his willingness to be engaged with others, to listen to what they had to say, to consider their thoughts and opinions when he was making decisions. And, the saying is that humility builds credibility. So strong leaders listen, they learn, they adjust course, and they engage their teams. Again, we've talked about this before, haven't we? And I love this about President Lincoln. He was known to be out and about. We also talked about not leading from the office, but he would visit hospitals. He went out to visit the troops. He truly empathized with what was happening and the hardships that it was creating on families and on people. And he demonstrated at the highest level true emotional intelligence. And that was one of the things that made him such an endearing president. This is one that I could have learned, I guess, a little sooner in my career. But, Lincoln was famous for his clear, concise, emotionally driven communication. Like the slide says, the Gettysburg Address was only 272 words. But he understood that you lead by influence, not by volume. It's not how loud you speak, but it's how well you speak from the heart. And that goes back to something we talked about before from Simon Sinek. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This is one of my favorite stories from Lincoln. After he was elected, he went out and he recruited from a team of his rivals key figures to be in his cabinet. William Seward, as the Secretary of State, initially discussed or dismissed Lincoln as just being inexperienced and incompetent. Salmon Chase, who became the Secretary of Treasury, was a rival for the presidency and a vicious opponent. But he had skills that Lincoln needed on his cabinet, and he encouraged him to come and be part of his team. And then Edward Bates, as the Attorney General, was another presidential contender, but he brought some strong legal mind to the table that was very important. So Lincoln, because he had confidence and humility, was able to reach out to his foes, to his enemies, essentially, and bring them in to help focus on the mission. And that created strength of diversity in thought. And it also turned potential rivals into allies. Very strong. And I think this whole concept of calm under fire falls back to where I grew up. We used to say, don't ever let them see you sweat. But throughout all the adversity of the war and all the criticism that came his way, he remained compassionate and focused on the long-term goal, which was reunification of the nation. But, you know, the leader sets the emotional tone. So confidence and calm, breeds confidence in the team, and that builds the strength of the team, and the strength of the team is what produces the positive outcomes. Stay calm. I asked one of my favorite research assistants, a guy by the name of ChatGPT, to summarize Lincoln and his leadership style. And then I was amazed when I looked at the paragraph that my assistant gave me to be able to pull out things that are so important that we've talked about in other things: moral conviction, humility, emotional intelligence, communicate with simplicity, empathy, unified mission, and human dignity was important to Lincoln and to all of us, servant leadership. And then the greatest part of the quote was showing that true greatness lies not in wielding power, but in elevating others and preserving the greater good. I love it. I hope you found this nugget useful, and as always, if you did, you can find some more of them out there at the School of Global Health Management and Informatics here at UCF. Stay humble, my friends.